My specialty has a hard time finding appropriate measures. Should I use MVPs?
Great question, Gene. Not necessarily. Now, since Medicare started asking for quality data to be submitted, we've suffered from the phenomenon that there are many practices that do not have adequate, appropriate measures that are submittable. MVPs are not designed like specialty measure sets or EMA clusters, that is, eligible measure applicability clusters, to deal specifically with inadequate measure availability. Now, they tend to be as good as specialty measure sets to deal with inadequate measures, or maybe not as good, but similar to, but with a different set of complexities or nuances. Now, let's define those terms, and so doing help you understand the differences uh, in these choices. Starting with EMA clusters, there are a number of measures that are grouped together in defined clusters under similar clinical topics and or eligibility specification. Medicare assumes that if you submit one of those measures, you can submit all of those measures. And if you submit all of the measures in an EMA cluster, you get full credit for a quality submission, even if the measure set includes only 2 measures. Now, it can work even for practices that don't have patients that qualify for one or more of the other measures. An EMA submitter who can truthfully and accurately submit a 0 for the denominator of one or more of the EMA cluster measures gets a full quality score for the submission. Once you understand specialty measure sets, you'll understand EMA to be a minor variation or on the specialty measure set concept, typically going more topical where specialty measure sets are more specialty oriented. Now, Medicare defines 51 specialty measure sets for 2024. They are a suggestion, not a requirement for specialty practices. They suggest as a specialty, you go to that specialty measure set to choose your measures. They don't require it. Now, some of the specialty measure sets have fewer than 6 measure choices. There's only a couple out of the 51 with fewer than 6 choices. Submitting all of the measures in the set, even less than 6, counts as a full, unpenalized quality submission. Like EMA cluster, a practice or provider can submit measures with a 0 denominator when 0 is true and accurate to get full credit for quality. Now, MVPs function in much the same way I just described as specialty measure sets, with some important nuances. Now, submission is limited to the MVP. You can't choose measures beyond the MVP. The MVP is the quality measures in an MVP are coordinated or limited to topically appropriate improvement activities and cost measures. So it also limits or focuses your selection of improvement activities and cost. Well, you don't select cost measures, but an advantage of the MVPs is you only get graded on the cost measures that are connected to the MVP. It closes off the entire universe of cost measures, which the typical MIPS submitter gets subject to. If things continue as scheduled, 2024 will be the last year for which you can use the MVP to qualify your entire practice on quality, just like the 6 measures selected in the MIPS submission today. I think most of my multi-specialty groups are choosing 6 primary care oriented measures to qualify the entire group. Under MVPs, in the first 2 years of its use, you can similarly use the MVP to qualify the entire group. Now, we expected that to be closed after the 2024 performance year. And after 2024, from 2025 and beyond, the use of MVPs were restricted to what's considered the eligible providers, although Medicare is still struggling with how to define eligible providers. Is it by specialty? Is it by eligibility for any of the measures within the group? Is there something else? But they do intend ultimately, after the 2024 year, that MVPs be restricted to the subgroup within your practice that is eligible for the MVP. MVPs are somewhat similar to specialty measure sets. Generally, there are a lot more choices within the MVPs, including choices across methods and an encouragement to use multiple methods in an MVP. Um, you can satisfy an MVP with MIPS CQMs, with eCQMs, with QCDR measures, with claims measures if you're a small practice, or for anyone, administrative claims measures that Medicare calculates for you. So there's a lot more choices, and these measures can become a lot, or these MVPs can become a lot more complex than the MIPS submissions. And you can imagine, you should be aware that as we get deeper into MVPs and it becomes restricted to subgroups, ultimately when Medicare sunsets traditional MIPS and goes fully to MVPs, multi-specialty groups are often going to have to make multiple MVP submissions, not just a single 4-measure MVP submission or a single 6-measure MIPS submission to satisfy MIPS and the quality payment program. Hope this helps.